Today we have a brief show with the focus of our topic being, will Tesla Fremont get solar panels so they can avoid blackouts generated by PG&E? This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We typically have multiple items that we cover during our show, but have chosen to modify our usual process today as a way to sort of make sure a topic is well covered. But, you know, there may be a couple of cleanup items at the end. So please, as a reminder, we want to thank our Patreon supporters as well as thank our subscribers. If you enjoy our show coverage today, we'd appreciate if you would subscribe, and if you can support in other ways, it'd be appreciated as well. So our show focus today is on the fact that there's a company called PG&E, which is the utility that covers the Fremont factory for Tesla. The problem that they've run into is that PG&E has their power lines have been shown to cause huge amounts of destruction related to California fires. The most egregious example being there's something called the Paradise Fire, in which non-trimmed trees brushed up against power lines, sparking a fire that ended up killing 83 people and causing billions of dollars worth of damage. So the issue that came up was that PG&E went into bankruptcy, and part of them going into bankruptcy, the decision was made to start doing what's called rolling blackouts. So if we're in a high fire danger, so basically California had huge amounts of rain this past spring, which generated a large amount of vegetation. That rain is now gone, and that vegetation has turned into very dry brush. When high-speed winds are in place, you now have the problem of any brush fire that might come up ends up spreading quickly, and therefore potentially having huge damage impacts across a broad area. So the decision was made to start doing small and large-scale blackouts. And in this case, we're going to put the thumbnail in that shows that the planned and executed blackout area sort of includes the area where the Fremont plant was. We actually did a more narrow look at what was going on and determined that the whole of Fremont was not covered in this, and the factory for Tesla was not part of the blackout area, which is actually good news because for those who want to use the high-speed supercharger there, that'll be available and part of the solution that Tesla is able to provide to vehicle owners that perhaps others might not be able to. So what's interesting about this is that we chose as a title today, will Tesla Fremont actually get solar panels? And we thought this was kind of interesting because, as you know, Tesla has video of the solar panels that have been existed and were installed on the new Gigafactory. But the decision was made not to install solar panels on the main factory. And it's turned out that those panels would have been a good idea. So we're suggesting that Elon might want to consider talking to Tesla Solar and installing a solar array on top of the building, which can power the supercharger that's being used there. And when the power's not being used in that manner, it could simply be used by the factory instead of buying power off the grid. So I think this is a novel idea, given that this is the business Tesla is in. So I want to encourage you guys to tweet at Elon to allow Tesla to buy solar panels from itself so that it can reduce the potential impact on production of not having power from the grid. You know, Tesla dodged a bullet in that we thought that there was going to be a production slowdown related to this lack of power. But again, as it was shared by the map we saw of Fremont, the the area that covers the plant is supposedly not part of the shutdown grid area. So that's actually kind of good news. As you probably have all read, Tesla has responded by sending notices to all vehicle owners as the potential blackouts were being noted, encouraging people to do charge up fully to 100% as a way to minimize the impact of not having power for their vehicles from the grid for multiple days, number of days unknown, that was presented by the utility. So we're kind of fascinated by this circumstance because this introduces a whole new realm. We thought that what would happen to the Fremont plant is that there'd be an earthquake, and that earthquake would put Tesla out of production for weeks, if not months, as the whole area recovered. So this is one of the ways in which China really helps Tesla, because if you have some kind of natural disaster, locating your production in one place potentially damages the company because there's no other place producing your vehicles. So now you lose all that revenue. As it is right now, while the plant won't be shut down, from power angle, from what we can tell, there are some challenges related to the fact that there are huge lines for fuel for the gas stations that still have fuel and can pump that fuel in the Bay Area. And because most of the workers from Tesla can't afford to live very close to the plant, their commutes are going to be affected, as well as their ability to sort of make it to work based on them may not have power in their home areas or even having fuel. I wanted to, so the process of our show today is sort of go through the general information of what's going on and maybe make a few suggestions and see whether or not there are things to think about that one might consider going forward, in this case for Tesla. So variables that are, we're sort of diving into the variables that are affected by this. There are a number of individuals who have a combination of solar panels, a Powerwall, and Tesla vehicles, and they're enjoying no blackouts basically because the length of the day is providing enough power to power all three for those people lucky enough to have already installed their systems. One of the owners indicated that they would likely be fine when it comes to power, but perhaps as the days get really short, it might switch over to become a challenge at that point. So we'll see how this all plays out. I'm, I guess, fascinated because yes, there's a solar array on the Gigafactory, but again, we're really surprised that there wasn't an effort to bring some kind of solar to the main Fremont plant. And I guess you could argue it's not really necessary, or it's a CapEx situation for them to do that in terms of spending that money versus if it's a brand new facility. And I guess any idea here kind of doesn't make sense to me because this is a great opportunity to showcase your technology at your main plant. One other data point that popped up is that as we were doing research to figure out, well, kind of what happened here, there was a story that was in August 12th. There was an incident in which a crane cut the main power line to the Fremont plant, and the result was that the whole plant was shut down. So in that case, it was maybe a 24-hour, possibly 50-hour shutdown that sent workers home. But we were kind of fascinated by the fact that this was a precursor to the problems that are being had now. And I'm sort of surprised that maybe power walls or something hadn't been put in place in light of the lessons learned by this outage in early August. So we'll see how this plays out, but I really think it highlights, sort of changes needed to fit circumstances occurring. The other thing that popped up is that Tesla announced and Elon announced that there are several measures being taken in light of these power outages by Tesla. Number one, their plan was to place storage next to all the superchargers so that if there's a power outage, those facilities can keep working to provide power. Number two, they plan to increase the number of solar arrays that are attached to these power facilities so that you could have off-grid energy powering up these facilities. And in several cases, there's actually plenty of land nearby that Tesla could lease or buy to support production of sort of local electricity for those facilities. And they have all the expertise in the world to execute it well. So we look forward to that being the case. So, I have to admit that given Tesla's business, I'm amazed that any of this is even an issue, given the fact that the Fremont plant should be able to run fully on Tesla solar panels and store energy up as well, possibly to be used by vehicles that need charging. So perhaps the numbers are so huge that there's no way that would work, but at least taking a stab at it seems to make sense. What are the implications of this longer term? Well, it seems that there's a large number of people. So right now, there are a lot of businesses, et cetera, that are leasing or renting generators as a way to power themselves up during this downturn. What's going to happen in the future is that there are certain times of year where these heavy winds and dry conditions will result in power outages of this manner. So if Tesla can produce the Powerwalls, I think there are going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of new customers that are sort of ready to put these in. Now, one of the commenters indicated that at $10,000 per Powerwall, your target customers may not be the obvious ones, but I think that, given the increasing value of homes in the Bay Area, we likely have folks deciding to maybe, do a line of credit or an equity line of some sort to be able to definitely do Powerwalls, but possibly even solar arrays, because this is going to be an ongoing phenomenon. My thought process is the problem Tesla has been having is there's been a shortage of batteries for quite a while as they try to build more of these Model 3s and other vehicles. So Tesla's actually been buying for land-based, production of things like the Powerwall. Tesla has actually started buying batteries from Samsung in the larger installations. And in the case of Powerwalls, they simply stopped delivering them and sort of delayed the installation for new buyers. And so, there's kind of a shortage going on given the number of batteries Tesla is able to produce. And I guess they could theoretically bounce to another provider's batteries because the weight of the pack isn't as big an issue as it might be when, hence why you optimize on lithium-ion batteries produced by Tesla. So we think the whole situation is comical because I can't figure out how you'd have the premier producer of power from solar with cars and other iterations have a power problem. And so as a result, I'm puzzled as to why Tesla hasn't had a better solution than they currently have for this for quite a while, given that they're experts in the field. So I hope this spurs the company to look at just, getting a nice solar array on top of the building. And they have so many ways to use it because they could simply ship that power over to the vehicles that are charging at the supercharger station. And so this also brings up an answer to a list of how Tesla has chosen to deal with this. One, they've encouraged people to charge up fully. Two, in this case, if you look at the grid of who has lost power, there are a lot of owners that will be able to drive to a supercharger and charge up that way and then come back to their home areas, but you lose the mileage back and forth. So it's slightly self-defeating when you have to go 20, 25 miles out, maybe 30 miles, and then you have to come 30 miles back. So it's a good thing you have 300 miles of range, because now you can do that, but it is somewhat of a headache. We also are noticing that, the this whole thing, in theory, should have an impact on whether or not people might be interested in buying electric cars to begin with, given that these kind of challenges can occur. But I have to say that the flip side of that is when you see long lines of vehicles waiting to try to power up at regular gas stations, they're intermittently shut off. I'm not sure that there's a huge disadvantage. So say with Tesla, especially if they make an effort to add the solar arrays that allow these the supercharger facilities to keep charging. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Another data point that comes up is that the one county that did not receive blackout notices was San Francisco. So, while there are trees in San Francisco, there's a place called Golden Gate Park, which is sort of a concentration of a really nice park and trees that potentially have issues, but not a lot of power lines going through there. So not a lot of potential for Tesla or PG&E's power lines to cause a fire. So we were kind of fascinated because one of the things that pops up is Tesla's tended not to put charging facilities inside the city, but a solution that seems to make sense in this case is possibly to go ahead and install multiple in San Francisco supercharger facilities that would assist suburban customers of giving them more options should these issues pop up in the future. So, the issue has sort of multiple prongs, and we just thought it was kind of an interesting circumstance because much of what the problems that have popped up are the expertise area of Tesla. So in theory, it doesn't make sense that these are problems because the company is an expert in solving them when it comes to installing solutions of this type. So actually, we're hoping that, Cindy Tepper pointed out just now that at 45-mile-an-hour winds, the company really has to go ahead and shut down power and fire suppression and arresting infrastructure is about robust inside of the city. So the whole thing, I think, is fascinating to watch. I really think that if worked well by Tesla, this actually could be a huge opportunity to increase your customer base because you have a better solution. And it seems like circumstances like this are going to start happening multiple years. And when you have wealthy consumers who want a well thought out solution for this problem, you potentially have a large amount of business that you would generate in that process. So, we're looking forward to your comments, and we'll probably do updates while we're doing other shows related to this. But I actually think that this is a huge opportunity for Tesla to show off what it can do and really have an impact for customers where others may not have great solutions. So, the folks from GM, as well as the e-tron folks, et cetera, are kind of stuck because they don't have the supercharger network to compete with Tesla. While there are, sort of charging facilities, they may not be the high-speed options that Tesla's offering. So, for those of you affected, in the Bay Area, we'd love to hear, in comments what your thoughts are on this circumstance. And, there is some high-speed wind issues when we go into Southern California as well. And the utility down there has indicated that they'll actually be doing, or have warned about shutoffs, and will actually start moving towards doing so as well. So throughout this zone, I think there's a potential for Tesla to gain a huge amount of customers and new business generated by demand associated with folks that are concerned about how these outages are going to hit them. So stay tuned. We look forward to further updates on this. And we also would love your comments and thoughts on sort of what's going on here. Wanted to remind you, 25 leg lifts a day to strengthen quad muscles, reduce potential for damage to your knees. Also wanted to encourage you to don't eat within 2 hours of going to bed, preferably 4 hours, because this will reduce the chance of acid reflux and other issues related. Any rate, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. Thanks, Cindy, Bretta Donovan, and others for saying hello. Very much appreciated. Look forward to our next opportunity to be in communication. Have a great day. Bye for now. Tschüss, German. Au revoir, French. Lehitraut, Hebrew. Choda Hafez, Farsi. Hejdu, Swedish. In Zdravstvuyte, Russian. Ni hao ma, Chinese. And in Jamaica, we say, Nuff respect wa good man. Have a great day. Bye for now. Look forward to your comments, and please take time to like and subscribe. Have a great day, and bye for now.